Welcome to Afternoons with Ems. My name is Emily Telvik. I run a company called Best Next Steps that is all about the things that we do every day in our lives to take our best next step in whatever area we're trying to gain traction. And welcome to Afternoons with Ems, my weekly talk show where I sit down and share the stories of phenomenal women. And we talk about topics that I think are important to all of us. And I'm so excited to have my dear friend, Amy Klossner, on today. And we are going to be taking a deep dive through her journey of infertility and then fostering and adopting. And it's a big story, my friends. So before we get into that, I want to just ask for a couple things. One, if you are liking Afternoons with Ems, would you please share it? Would you tag Best Next Steps and share Afternoons with Ems? And would you just drop a hashtag about it? Drop the hashtag Afternoons with Ems. I would love to gain more, of a larger following around this and know that it's impacting people. So if it is impacting you, please let me know and let the people that follow you know too. I would so appreciate it. And then September, we are going to be we're diving in to how to parent a unicorn. Like if you have a child, I know, isn't that a great?
That is a great, yes.
So yeah. I just want you to prepare yourself because I actually have the lineup is phenomenal for September of people coming on who are going to talk about their own unicorn children. Like, okay, if the average child is a horse and then you have a unicorn, no matter what you do, if you're looking at the corral of children, your unicorn child's always going to be doing its own thing, right? It's always going to be special. It's always going to be shining in its own way. And so I just have a great lineup. I'll be sharing more with that. But if I just want you to, set that time aside on Thursdays if that is a topic that you are interested in or want to know more about. I have experts in the field coming in to talk. I have moms. I'm just so excited about that month. So, okay, all of that housekeeping done. Amy. Hi. So, okay, for those that are watching that don't know you, come in a little bit so people see you. You don't want to be half in the screen.
All right.
We're going to be really cozy,
yes.
but we can be because we've been friends for like 11 years now, 12 years.
Yeah.
How long have we lived here? 12 years?
12.
Okay, it's 12 years. I said 10 the other day, and Mark goes, it's been longer.
Because Abby was 2 and she's 14 tomorrow, so.
Yeah. Okay. So for those who are watching that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, your background, all that good stuff.
So I'm Amy, and I'm actually a native Southern Californian. We moved up here 12 years ago. My husband is from Eastern Washington, and so we moved up kind of to get away from the rat race in Southern California. And we had our daughter, Abby, at the time. She was 2. And she, like I said, is 14 tomorrow. So, and then we have accumulated more children over the last few years. But, I was a music major in college, so I teach piano lessons. And then this last year, dove into preschool teaching. So I do that twice a week. And that'll start up in a few weeks. But mostly just at home with my kiddos.
Yeah. Although you've always had your hands in a lot of different things too with church ministry.
Yeah.
And she doesn't sit still for long, friends. She's pretty busy. All right, so so let's tell people a little bit about our story because Amy, was the first person I met when we moved to Spokane. She was the first friend that I had, and I probably had that desperate look on my face of like, I don't know.
I think we both did.
Yeah,
I think we both did. I think we moved at the same time, right?
Yeah, right about the same time.
Because when did you guys move?
January.
Okay, so it was a couple months because we were here in October.
Because I think you had already been established at your church, and that's how I came to that MOPS.
Okay.
Yeah, I came to a MOPS. I just started like, okay, where can I go to meet people? And I came to this MOPS, and that's how we met. And then Amy called me, said, "Do you want to get together? I'm new too." And I'm like, yes, let's see friends. And we both had littles. My son was 3.5 when we moved here. Abby was 2, so we just both had little kids, and but one thing that we both discovered about each other, that we both had infertility stories. So tell a little bit about yours.
So my husband Kelly and I just celebrated 20 years this summer. Woohoo! I know.
20
I
years.
just don't feel that old. I just don't know how that's possible. But
Well, it's because we're 20 years, but we're still hip.
pretty well, yeah.
Our opinion is not okay.
Okay,
we're
we're
back.
back. We a couple years into marriage, Kelly and I said, well, let's start trying for a family, and we weren't really doing anything aggressive, but I think almost a year went by and nothing had happened, and then
Sorry. Does that mean you weren't like scheduling having?
we weren't like, yes, it had not come to the point where we needed to be like, okay, I am fertile now. Let's do
okay.
it. You know,
all right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was still kind of the come what may sort
Right.
of fun sex that you have
Yeah.
when you're just a couple years
Yes.
married. And, yeah.
So,
okay.
but we realized, well, it feels like maybe it should not be taking this long. And I was maybe 25 and Kelly was 27. So, still very young.
Yeah.
And
babies.
When I think about the fact that I was 23 when I got married, I was like, yeah.
I know.
I felt so old and mature. But anyway, I ended up getting pregnant, and then shortly after I found out I was pregnant, I started having some spotting, and we went to the doctor, and it turned out that I had an ectopic pregnancy, a tubal pregnancy. So I had to have surgery to remove that, and when I went in for surgery, they also found endometriosis and just some other things, and so at that point we thought, okay, now I think we're in this for the long haul. So we tried naturally for a few more years, and I think about 3 years after that, we decided to go ahead and do IUI, do some infertility treatments, and I don't remember how many months we did it, but it was kind of a nightmare. So
well, it all starts becoming a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
all of a sudden, what you thought wouldn't happen
Right.
naturally
Right.
isn't. There's a ton of focus on it now.
Yeah.
You start tracking your body,
Yeah.
right? Sex takes on a different meaning.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happens when it goes from like, oh, this isn't working,
Right.
to okay, how do we make this work? And
Kelly's giving me shots, and I'm on hormones, and I am already highly emotional. So, as anyone who knows me well will attest to. And so then you throw that in the mix, and it was just horrific. And then every month you have these ups and downs of, you're hoping, and then every little symptom you read into, and like, I think it might be it, and then it's not. And then, so it just was just this constant, it was just really hard, really, really hard. So.
And I think as women, it's hard because we feel like this is what our body's supposed to do, right?
Right.
So when it's not, it feels like a bit of a betrayal.
Yeah.
And
I think it was hard too because really, I never had any designs on being like a big career woman. I really just wanted to be home. I wanted to be a mom. I imagined having a lot of children. And so this was like, it almost felt like, am I going to have this death of a dream, And, it was a hard time.
yeah, so I was 18 when I was told I most likely wouldn't be able to have children because I had such severe endometriosis. I had always had really irregular periods, like they wouldn't come for months, and then I would bleed for months, and so I had gotten my brain around the fact that like this wasn't happening for me much earlier. Before I even got married, I had told my husband, "Hey, you need to know this, that we probably won't be able to have children," and he was like, "That's fine, we'll adopt, that's okay." And we, because we didn't even have like a nest, and we had an egg. Tristan came like a hot minute after we got married, and we were like, wait a sec, we didn't think this was supposed to happen. So God always has his interest. I mean, I look back now and I think he was the perfect time for where we needed to be, and always. But so what happened after you did the fertility? IUI, and then. But I know you stopped that. You guys were like, this isn't working.
So I had gone to a women's retreat with our church, and the whole theme was, how much are you letting God have control of your life? And I really felt like I wanted to really set this aside and just let him have control. And I came back, and meanwhile, Kelly was at home, and he was thinking, I do not want to do this fertility stuff anymore. It's a nightmare. It's putting us in debt. I can't do it, but he was terrified to tell me. So I got home and we both were like, we need to talk. And then we laughed because we both wanted to say the same thing. And then, surprise of all surprises, I was pregnant the next month. So, and that is our Abby. So, so that was really such a miracle. And they never, I think because I didn't know that I had the endometriosis, but they never really could figure out why we couldn't get pregnant. They just looked at us and said, your chances are much lower than a normal couple. So, we never knew, but we did decide at that point that any other children that we would have, we weren't going to do the fertility stuff. It was just too hard for us. So, and that was just, that's just a personal thing.
I think everyone has to get to wherever they do.
Yeah.
We both know tons of friends who have had babies with all sorts of fertility help and whatever. You do you. Yeah. That's total. But I think you have to know for yourself that Mark and I had always said we wouldn't do any either. Yeah. Because then so you got pregnant with Abby. Mm-hmm. She's a miracle. You guys moved to Spokane. Right. And that's when I came into your life. And then you and I we had these first babies, and then it was like the desert.
Nothing.
We had nothing. And so I had 3 miscarriages in between Tristan and Rosie. I know. Well, I kept them. They were early. I kept them pretty quiet because I wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant again. So after I had Tristan, they said, "Yeah, your chance." Like he was the one off. It's probably never going to happen again. I had that dye test where they pushed the dye through, and no dye came through. It's extremely painful. Just if you need to know that it's not comfortable. No. If dye isn't going through and they're trying to push it through, that's exactly how it feels. So. So we're doing life together. We're in Bible study together, and both of us have these one babies, and we love them, but we feel like God has more for our lives. So So take us from that. You have Abby. You're here in Spokane, and
so we had kind of looked into adoption, but as everybody knows, it's very, very expensive to adopt, regardless of if you do it privately or overseas. And so for us, it was kind of out there, but then it wasn't really an option because we just knew we didn't have that kind of money. And so we just kind of plodded along. And I think the hardest thing for me was, Abby is getting to the age where she's asking, why don't I have a brother or sister? I would like a brother or sister. And I'm like, we would love to give you a brother or sister, but, and just trying to explain that to 4 and 5-year-old is not easy. But so adoption was always kind of a thought. It was much more on my radar than it was Kelly's. And I think he was like, well, he even said to me, no, I think we're going to have more biological kids. I think it's going to happen. And I was like, I was getting older, and because I was almost 30 when I had Abby. Yeah, I was almost 30 when I had Abby, so it wasn't happening. And
meanwhile, this desire of your heart is growing. Yeah. You didn't intend Abby to be an only child, and it now is becoming the focus again, right? Like, okay. Because I think you get a reprieve from that.
You do.
When you get your baby, then you're like, okay.
In fact, there was like 2 years that I was like, no, I'm good, and because we were enjoying her, and then we had the move and all the stuff. And so, but then my sister, who is younger, by then was on her 3rd daughter. And, it got hard. It got really hard, and it was hard. A lot of our friends were on their 3rd kiddos, at least. And the questions, well, aren't you going to have another one? Why are you not having another one? It's kind of like when you're dealing with infertility and they're like, why are you not having a baby? Shouldn't you have a baby? You've been married for 6 years. Stop asking me. Yeah.
Yes, so. And then people are giving you all sorts of unsolicited advice about how only children don't turn out well.
Right.
And you're like...
They're spoiled brats.
Right, and how we're just ruining their lives by not having more kids. And meanwhile, you're just trying to have more kids. Right. I think people should have more discretion because I got all sorts of advice in those 6 years about how Tristan was not going to turn out okay because he was an only.
And we have pretty spectacular older children.
Yeah, they're pretty great. So I think, by the grace of God and a lot of love, they're doing it just fine. I don't think they're ruined. Well, and also because they got, in your case, Abby got a full bushel of siblings. So
she's had to adjust. Yes.
So during this time, Amy and I are in Bible study together, and it's kind of like weekly updates. Like, I'm just, how are you? And some weeks she's doing good, and some weeks there's tears. And I think I was a lot more resigned to not having another because, I mean, I was having those miscarriages, but they weren't, I never felt like they were going to stay. I was like this. I didn't feel right. The pregnancies felt weird from the get-go, and they were so early on and whatever. But I was watching, I mean, but it is emotional, right? Mark and I were deciding what to do. He knew he really wanted more children, and so we were looking into adoption ourselves. And so but I was really watching you with this hope in your heart of getting pregnant again.
Yeah.
And it felt, and then of course, the minute that you are really focusing on this, everyone around you is pregnant So we got to this point where we're sitting, so just fast forward a few years, and Amy's walking through her journey. I've had miscarriages. Mark and I start looking into adoption. My dad dies, and I go to help my mom for a month. And I saw Mark like during the funeral, but he was basically here in Spokane. But during that funeral time was all it took, and like a little bit of funeral sex to just and I got pregnant, and so we were sitting in Bible study together, and I leaned over to her and I said, I'm pregnant, and it felt different. I was sick right away. I felt like that something was going to happen. And so
I seriously vividly remember that
moment. Me too. I can remember what I was wearing. I can remember what you were wearing. Like I just remember telling you
because it's hard to tell somebody
who. Yes. Yeah. But then I also felt like it was like, if this is happening after this long for me, after 6 years, like I feel like there's hope.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's where our stories like take a big turn though, because it didn't happen.
Right.
So you started looking into adoption, or how did that come into the picture?
Well, so we had heard about, a friend of ours told us about this ministry on the west side of the state in the Seattle area called Antioch Adoptions, and it is a low-cost adoption ministry, and basically their heart really is for foster children to be placed in families, but they also were doing private adoptions. But so there was the one in Seattle, and then one came to Wenatchee, and so Kelly and I actually tried to connect with the Wenatchee office, and you could just tell it just was not happening. It was roadblock after roadblock. It just did not feel right. Kelly was in the middle of getting a CPA license, and he was stressed, and it was not the one thing we needed to add. So then this would have been 8 years ago. A friend of ours said, "Hey, did you hear that Antioch is coming to Spokane?" And I said, "They're putting an office in Spokane." And I was like, "Oh!" So Life Center church here was doing an orientation class, and so we went in August 8 years ago, and we're super excited because it was just their whole mindset. First of all, you've got low cost. So we're talking, their whole thing is, what are we paying for in these adoptions, in these private adoptions? What's happening here? Because their comment to us, to the group was, it takes maybe $8,000 or $9,000 to do an adoption when you're paying people, and
private adoptions can be like $30,000 to
$40,000.
Yeah.
So what's happening in there that is the extra? And again, their heart is really for foster kids. And one of the things that they mention is in Washington State alone, I just looked at the number and it's 10,000. I almost think it was like 12,000 when we first looked. But there's in Washington State 10,000 kids who are in the foster system. And I want to say 2,100 are legally free, which means they are ready to be adopted. There's no strings attached.
That's a heartbreaking statistic.
It is
right there.
Heartbreaking. And the hard thing is, a lot of those are older kids.
Yeah.
And they're the kids that they come from hard places. They're not babies. They're not, they're hard. So, but they're kiddos. They have had some life, and you would be amazed at how much life a little 20-month-old could have, how much trauma can happen in that time. So, anyway, so we got really excited, and we decided to go ahead with the process. So we started doing the home study, and
this is where her friend Emily is like, "Are you sure about this? You know about plastic? Like, this is going to be really hard." I remember this conversation too, and you and Kelly are like, "We know." Yeah. Like, we got it. But I just felt like I had to be like, okay.
Except the funny thing is we had no idea at the time.
You're right. Okay. I mean, now it's, of course, I see it's the perfect plan for your family. Right. But I also felt like just in case you hadn't considered that it might be really hard, let me just like make sure you know.
Yeah.
So we have dinner, and you guys are telling us that you're going to go down this road. I remember.
Right.
We were watching the Olympic opening, like the Winter Olympics. Do you remember?
No, was this, yes, at the casino?
Mm-hmm.
But was this before Emory or after Emory?
This was before.
It was before Emory? Okay.
It was before Emory.
Okay.
So, and you were diving in.
Yeah.
You guys were going to go for it.
But what they had said to us is, this is a long process. This is probably going to be a 2-year process. So you need to do the home study, you need to do, they called them pride classes at the time. I don't remember what that stood for, but it's something different now. But it's basically like 36 hours of foster parenting classes. So you go through the state.
And those are hard classes too.
Let me tell you.
Devastating.
That was, and I think, but see, that is where our heart really turned towards foster. Because we were like, it is hard. And you're like, I cannot believe there are kids that are living through these situations. And this is real life. And I mean, I grew up in a bubble, essentially. Like, I mean, I grew up in a very loving home, stable, so you are hearing these stories and you just almost can't even believe that it's for real. So that's kind of where our heart turned. But we, so we're going through the process, and it was about Christmas time. We're finishing up our home study and got through Christmas, and then the director of Antioch, and it's now called the Child's Hope, by the way, it changed, but I'll probably always call it Antioch because that's what we knew it as. But she called and she said, this was early January, and she said, in fact, I answered the phone. I was at Bible Study Fellowship, and I answered it because I saw it was her. And she said, we have a birth mom who is having a little girl, and we had to put together a book of our family and all the things. And
I remember the book.
So they give them these birth moms, they give them a couple books to look through, and then they kind of pick who they want to meet as potential, parents. And so she said she's looked at your book and she would like to meet you. And I said, well, that's fantastic, because this is now only like 3 months after we first started the process.
Very fast.
So,
because we were all thinking that was going to take a while, right?
This was not expected. So, she said, oh, by the way, she's due in 5 weeks. And I was like, oh, like we didn't have a nursery ready. We had nothing. So I call Kelly, and he goes, no, because he's Mr. Ducks in a row. Likes to have everything in order.
And I think our husbands have more of a no before the yes response.
It's like, just an initial,
It's an initial no, then they think about it, and then it's the yes. Yeah. But it's too much.
So by the time he got home that night, he said, you know what? Who am I to say no? If this is what God's going to do, let's go for it. So we said yes. And 5 weeks later, our sweet little Emery, 5 pounds, I'm not kidding, she's this big, like a burrito. So tiny. And we had a little bit of drama. It's I think, again, things that you don't expect. But the birth moms do have a certain amount of time to think about their decision, and they can change their mind. Typically, it's 48 hours. But because Emery was born on a Friday, and she was born on President's Day weekend, she had 4 days. And so, and there was a lot of waffling going on. Her parents were putting a lot of pressure on her to keep Emery. And so she was just young, and she, I think, knew in her heart that this was the right decision, but she just, literally cannot even fathom. I cannot fathom.
I mean, you would hope that she would take a minute, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like you would hope she would take a minute to really think through what she was doing. But on the other side of it, we're all like, do you have her?
Right,
or are we celebrating yet?
Yeah.
Like, are we bringing our presents? Yeah. Like, what's going on? And we're just praying and praying and praying. Like, literally, I remember that whole weekend just praying. Every prayer out of my was like, please let them take this baby home, please.
And it was so then the director of Antioch said, you have the choice to take her home. We cannot guarantee that you're not going to have to hand her back in 4 days. And so we prayed about it, and we were like, you know what? We don't want to miss out on those moments.
Yeah.
We'll deal with the heartbreak. But it was so weird taking Emery home because it was just Kelly and I. Abby had already met her. And this was heartbreaking for Abby because she was so excited to be a big sister. And so knowing that she was this close, and then, and then, of course, the newborn, right? They're just so cute. And
Emery was so cute.
She was cute.
She is so cute.
She is.
She's darling, and he has beautiful children. But Emery was one of those babies that looked like you just could put little wings on her, like a teeny pixie. She's so cute, and cheeks.
So tiny.
Yeah.
And she, right out of the womb was smiling. So,
yes.
And she's a happy kid. But so yeah, we took her home and did all that, and there's lots of emotions. And that was a Saturday. We took her home, and as we were driving away, Kelly goes, I feel happy and yet so sad all at the same time, because you're watching this birth mom who is making just this enormous sacrifice. And it's heartbreaking to watch, because again, having birthed my own child, I cannot even fathom what she was going through. Yeah.
Over.
So, it was a lot of emotions. And so that Tuesday actually was Kelly's birthday. And typically the birth moms will sign a letter of relinquishment, and that is sufficient. But because she had waffled so much, the judge actually wanted to see her in person, so they had to take her to the courthouse. And so we basically were waiting for a phone call saying yes or no. And so we got the phone call on Kelly's birthday that she was going to be a Klossner. And so,
and I remember we were all celebrating at that point. We knew that this was good.
It was huge. Yeah.
But there was trauma, right, involved in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just smooth sailing. It's the trauma of watching this mom. Her life circumstances were hard.
Right.
Give up this baby,
right.
and then the uncertainty, but that you want this baby so bad,
right?
And that it takes a certain amount of time to process all that. But
sure.
you didn't really have time,
no,
because you're off to you still have the baby, and you have Abby, and you just got to keep going. But I think there was you guys really did have, I think really after the boys came, then I watched you guys process
that
fully.
That was different. Yeah. Much different.
So you have this cute little baby girl, and I actually did Amy's shower for after.
Yes.
I mean,
we just found a CD. It was,
and
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die if I play this. But
So, because we were just so excited to celebrate this baby. So then it wasn't very long, and Annie got called again. Right?
Well, we had said, okay, we're good for now. Don't call us, because there was actually another call we'd gotten in between Emery and the boys, and it was somebody who was Abby's age at the time, and so she would have been maybe 8 or 9, and there was two families that this mom was choosing from, and it was a situation where mom was dying of cancer, and so she wanted to place her daughter before she passed away. So again, heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh.
And she ended up choosing the other family, neat family, who we ended up knowing. We didn't know we were the same. Didn't know we were talking about the same girl at the same time. And then shortly after that, we started to joke that whenever we would see Kathy's number on my phone, we were like, do we answer it? Because it usually means there's a child involved. So she called, and again, I remember I was cooking. I think it was a Tuesday afternoon, and Abby was sitting in the living room, and she can hear this conversation. And Kathy says, we have these 2 little boys, and they are brothers, biological brothers. And we have been praying about this, and your name keeps coming up. And I know you've said maybe you're not ready yet, but let me send you some pictures. Don't ever take pictures. No, just kidding.
Because they become real children, right? Then you see
their face,
these little sweet babies.
And they're darling.
Yeah.
They are darling
really
boys.
cute boys.
Yeah. And Colton was 20 months, and Braden was 4.5. So.
And how old was Emery at this time?
So she's right in between them. So she was 3.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. She was almost 3.
Yeah, because I don't think she was 3 yet.
No, because it was December or November, and she turned 3 in February.
Yeah.
So, that's another funny thing is all 3 of our adopted kids and Kelly have February birthdays. So people are like, did you plan that? And I'm like,
February is a big month at the class.
Yeah. We don't do much except birthday parties.
Just birthday.
Yeah. So I said to Kathy, well, what's the situation? What's going on? And she said, well, the parents' rights have been revoked. So these boys are living with their grandparents, and the grandparents have come to us and said, can you find us a family? We just cannot raise these boys.
Because they were also raising that older brother. And
there's a younger one, but he went straight into foster care.
Okay.
After. So yes, so there's an older half brother who grandparents had taken in, and he'll be 13. And then Zane is just a year younger than Colton, so he just turned.
Okay.
Well, he's also February. So he turned he turned 5 in February. So, but he had gone straight into foster care. So they were just asking for the 2 boys. And so I said, well, like, when do we need to decide? And she said, well, would you like to meet them on Saturday? We need to make a quick decision because they're already legally free. We need to get the process going because we don't want them sitting in the system. So Kelly got home and we had a discussion, and we couldn't think of a reason not to. Mm-hmm. But this is where we were like, so we were just joking earlier that everything we do is like super fast. Like there's no...
Yeah. The Klossners like rip the Band-Aid off. Like they just, but there was those years of waiting, right?
There was.
Years of waiting for a baby.
Right.
And then it was like, it's like feast or famine.
Yeah.
And so they just went through a house change, and it was years of them hoping and dreaming and wanting a new house and a new space. And then all of a sudden, like everything happened in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And so that's, with Amy, it's just like lots of time and then
also,
all done.
Just do it fast.
Yes.
So we met them that Saturday, and I will never forget the boys walking up with the grandparents to our house, and what a weird feeling. Like, it's different with a newborn.
Right.
It was still weird because I was after Emery's birth mom, I was the first one to hold her. The birth mom wanted that. And it still felt bizarre because I hadn't been through, especially having birthed Abby.
Yeah.
It's not the same process. But it still was different because she was a newborn and there was no history there. And when the boys walked up, it was like, these are going to be our sons, you know?
Yes,
And so
they
that
were
was
like big kids. I mean,
and
not,
the kids, yeah.
One of them was still under 2, but it's like you haven't just gotten them from a baby,
right? So, and I just remember, so the way it worked for us was we met them on Saturday, and then after they had left, Kathy said to us, well, what do you guys think? And she said, we really, really need you to make a decision.
That's a weird process of its own. What do you think? Do you want these kids?
Yeah.
Like it's like
right.
Like if you said no, it would have changed the whole trajectory of those boys' lives.
So, and we, like I said, we couldn't see any reason not to at that point. So we just were like, and this is where people really thought we were crazy. Because they're like, you're doing what now? You know? And I remember talking while we were cooking and even trying to process, like, what are we doing? What have we said yes to? You know? And yet, like I said, we didn't have good reasons not to. And we definitely felt it was a calling of ours. Our hearts had just super expanded and in wanting to do foster care, just as we knew what was going on in the system. And so in November they started doing like small placements with us, so we would have like a 2-hour play date, and then and our girls were just fascinated by this whole thing. It was like, these are gonna be our brothers, like what, you know? And I had to run out and buy boy toys because I had nothing. I had like My Little Pony and Strawberry Shortcake. So I remember going to the store and being like, cars, I don't know, you know.
Right.
I only had a sister, I never had brothers, so this was all very new to me. And so then it kind of gradually got a little bit more, and then eventually we spent the night. And I just remember holding Colton, so he's not even 2 yet, so, and he felt big at the time, but I look back and I'm like, he was a baby. He was a baby. But
he felt big too because Emery was so tiny too.
Yeah.
And that you also hadn't like had him from a baby on.
Right.
It was just,
and you just like, they smelled different. You know, like your kids have their smell. And I remember like snuggling him and thinking, he just smells, and he smelled fresh like laundry. I mean, his grandparents had taken very good care of him. And loved him, and I would equate them to almost like a birth mom story, where when they decided to give them to us, they knew that we would have the option of basically cutting them out of the boys' lives. Which, side note, we feel like those biological relationships are very, very important, and if they can be healthy. So we have a great relationship with those grandparents, but it was just weird. It was bizarre. And when they were fully placed with us was 3 days before Christmas. So my sister and her whole family are coming, and that was seriously the weirdest Christmas I've ever experienced, probably ever will, because I'm looking at these kids and they're opening presents, and normally, and I'm a gift person, that's my love language. So I've spent months thinking about what I'm getting my girls for Christmas and, the things that they really, really want. And then I just am sort of thrown into the situation, and they don't know which way is up at this point.
Well, and all of a sudden they're supposed to be yours,
right?
Right? They are yours. You said you're going to do this,
right?
But that doesn't mean that they feel like yours. And I think that is one of the biggest things about foster care and fostering to adopt, is that it sometimes takes your heart a minute to catch up, or maybe that's vice versa, like your mind to catch up to where your heart, like your heart said, we need to do this, but your mind takes a minute to to seal it. I mean, as you grow a baby in your womb, you seal yourself around it, right? And then Emery was so wanted because you had gone through this long season of infertility again, and you were so excited. But then it was like quickly after her, it was 2 boys. Yeah. And while you wanted them and you knew that this is what God had for you, it was a lot.
It was a lot. And Colton was, the youngest, was a biter. He would, I remember calling Kelly because he had pulled several times huge chunks of Emery's hair out of her head, and he had bitten her where he had taken chunks out of her skin. And honestly, I didn't like these kids very much. And I can say that now, and I think it took Kelly and I a while to even say that to each other, because there was a lot of we didn't regret what we had done, and we knew we had done what God had called us to do, but there was moments of what have we done? Right. What have we done? And because our lives were very peaceful and simple with the 2 girls, and everything is meant for families of 4, right? It's just easy. And then, we had to go out and buy a van as soon as we knew we were getting the boys. Yeah. It was all these things that just turned our world upside down. And I would say, so the boys, 2015, 4 years ago in July was when they were officially adopted. So we've had them for 4.5 years. Is that right? Is it 5? 2015? Yeah, anyway.
No.
The point...
It's 4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, it's 19. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm it's not 5. It hasn't been.
No, it hasn't been 5. But I would say, just even in the last year, Kelly and I have felt like we're actually really bonding, especially with Braden. I think it was easier for Colton once he got past his initial outbursts. But with Braden, it's hard with a 4.5-year-old because, and he literally did nothing wrong the first 3 months. I was like, Kelly, this is the weirdest thing. And I think he just didn't know. And we look back now and we're like, how traumatic for a kid to be pulled. And they were pulled from grandparents who loved and took care of them to, obviously he has been through trauma too, because he remembers birth parents and some of that stuff. But, and then you're dropped with these strangers.
Yeah.
So...
Well, let's just talk about your family dynamic for a minute. So Amy and Kelly, both of their parents are married. So the kids have these 2 grandparents on either side. And then they have Abby, their biological. Then they have Emery, and Emery has a birth mother and father who don't have access to her life right now.
Well, they do. Technically, they do. So birth mom, I'm friends on Facebook. When we signed our adoption agreement with Emery, it was an open adoption. So technically, and now that it's been 7 years, and there hasn't been, birth mom saw her one time when she was 6 months old, and I think it was just too hard for her. Okay. So we're friends on Facebook. She sees pictures, whatever. There's not communication there. Birth dad is close by. Well, he's a couple hours away, so he will text me and say...
Oh, that's right. Okay, yes.
Yeah, and her birth grandma, so dad's mom, lives in the area, so she will occasionally stop by. Okay. And so...
and then does Emery have any siblings that you...
So, 18 months after Emery was born, birth mom had a son. Okay. So, we've never met him.
So, but she has this half-brother out there
somewhere.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So then there's Braden and Colton, and their parental situation, so... Braden and Colton have 2 other brothers, and they by 2 other different fathers. Is that right?
So their older brother is the same mom, different dad. Younger brother is same mom and dad. Okay. So full biological. Yeah.
So there's all of that, and then Braden and Colton have their own grandparents too that raised them for the first few years of their life. So it's like, can you guys just we all think that we have a lot going on in our families? No. We got nothing. If this is a lot of dynamics because you try to continue to not only build relationships within your own nuclear family that you and Kelly have, but then with these other people that want to have a role in their lives and that are an important role, right?
Yeah. And I think the coolest thing to us is that both sets of grandparents have basically taken on all of our kids as their grandkids. They call them their grandkids. There's no definition of, well, the boys are our grandsons and Emery's our granddaughter. It's when they bring gifts for everyone. When they, and I mean, the boys' grandparents are just, well, they both are extremely generous. So they love our kids. There's no definition of yours, hers, mine. You know, these are our kids. They're siblings, and I do sometimes have weird thoughts, like, how weird is it that, like, Emery and Colton actually, in a different life, could have been married, right? Because they're totally unrelated. So, like, if they'd met,
yes.
you know, if they met at another time, they could be married. Like, it's just a weird, you know, we just have a strange dynamic. And it's so funny now because I don't think too much about it, but I remember going to the store even with the boys and being like, well, do you like cheese? Do you like, and I think people in the store were probably like, I don't know, maybe they thought they were my friend's kids or something, but it was a funny thing to not know my children. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, you're figuring them out.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys did go through, that was a process of some hard seasons of trying to adjust to Abby for so long, and then you had a sweet rhythm with Emery, and then all of a sudden 4 kids with 4 different needs, and these boys who had some past, and even though they were well loved by their grandparents, it was a totally different kind of raising, and so it took a while.
It did. It really did, and I think there was just a lot of prayer and a lot of, you know, we knew, like you said, we knew we wanted these boys. We knew that this is what God was calling us to, but it didn't change the fact that it was very, very difficult. It still is very difficult. You know, we're finding out things with both of them just recently, you know, just some pretty severe learning disabilities that have been detected in both of them. And so,
watch in September when I talk about the unicorn.
Okay, yes.
Maybe there will be something. Well, you watch me walk through all that with Tristan, so you know.
I will watch and learn on that one because we're just at the start of that. So, yeah.
Okay, so where do you think in your heart, from this desire to have biological children to adoption, was there a shift there that you made to let go of that desire and dream? Because I know now, like, you're good.
Right.
You guys have the family. You think you're
now
supposed
we'll
to
probably
have.
get pregnant. No.
Kelly, it's fine. It's not going to happen. I just felt like your husband had like like his chest at work. Yeah, he's not even watching, but like, there was.
But you know, you hear this, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I'm 43. I don't need to have another baby, but
yeah.
Well, honestly, I think it was during the classes, and I think that's what we had to keep coming back to, was the pull that God had put on our heart to take these kids from hard places and love them as best as we can. And like you said, by the grace of God, we've made it through those 4.5 years. And honestly, I think the support of our families. I mean, our families were all for it. We have 2 sets of parents who were behind it. Our church family has just been there for us over and over again. And I think for me personally, I'm pretty real. Like what you see is what you get. And, But I think the challenge in this is that not a lot of people understand. And so, although I will say, when I finally started really talking to friends, and I'm like, I don't really like Brayden right now, or whatever. I don't like, and they're like, we don't like our biological children.
Oh, that's universal.
Like,
whether you have birthed this child or adopted this child, there comes points where you're like, that is not my favorite kid in the house right now.
And that was really good for me to hear, because you just think, is this just me? Is this ever going to change? Is it? Because Abby, I say often that if we had only had Abby, we would be super judgy parents, because she's pretty awesome.
Pleaser.
She's a good kid.
She's a sweet kid.
She's sweet.
She's an achiever. And she just, and kind. And Abby's like a delight. And was it just easy?
Yeah. She was easy. Like we didn't have to parent that hard, right?
Yeah.
So, like, she's just a naturally good kid. And so we were like,
she wasn't the kid ever throwing a tantrum in the grocery store,
just like, what is everyone else's problem? We are such good parents.
Not, they need to have a little more discipline.
Could you take care of that child, please? Yes. I know. So God has...
We're not like that.
No, we're
just
not.
So you know, we get it.
Yes. God has humbled us tremendously in our other children. So, Yeah, so I think I'm trying to come back to what did you ask? When the shift?
So, I think because that desire to birth biological babies it is a real dream.
Yeah.
Right? And people have a hard time letting go of that. But do you feel like once you were able to just give that up, hold it with an open hand, and make space for children that were of your heart but not of your body, like there was a freedom in that, you were just a letting go? I don't know. What would be your advice to moms who are just on that struggle, or women who are on that struggle so badly wanting but not knowing that direction?
It's so hard because honestly, I think once we'd had Abby, I was just so grateful to be able to experience birth.
Yeah.
And and sometimes I have moments of like, it makes me sad. Like I grieve the fact that I don't know my boys' birth stories. Although, as a side note, we've gotten to know their birth mom, and so I've heard a little bit about because she is in recovery and doing awesome. So that's a whole other thing that people think we're crazy, but again, if it can be, the boys haven't seen her, but we've had a chance to have some meals with her and get to know her, and she's told us a little bit of the story. But I think you kind of have to grieve, like. Yeah, there's a grief of, I don't know their full stories. I will never know their full stories. They don't know, there was not that initial bonding. Because even with Emery, we were there in the hospital.
Right, you were there.
We didn't see the actual birth, but we were there right after she was born. We had that initial bonding. We had her from the day after she was born, and so it just feels different.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just going to be probably a lifelong process with these boys. And again, it is really cool that we know the grandparents and can ask them questions. They will send us pictures. They've sent us pictures of the boys, on their birthdays, they kind of always will say. And so we've got their stats and we've got all the things. But I think once we'd had Abby, I was able to say, okay, I really, I've experienced it, and, I'm willing to let that go because we really do want more children. And then it turned from just even wanting to have more children to like, wow, there's a lot of children who need homes. And that's where our shift happened was, kind of after Emery it became a bigger picture than just trying to grow our family. So,
well, yeah, it becomes not just about that, right? Not just about your desire for a larger family, but it kind of becomes a mission field in a way too. So I've heard some foster moms say, though, that they really dislike it when people are like, I don't know how you do it, or you're such a hero. Yeah. Okay, why? Because I think you're amazing, and I've watched you walk through this. I mean, I did tell Mark, like, could you pray that I wouldn't cry today? Now I'm going to cry. Well, we can cry together.
We can cry.
We're so emotional,
yes.
But we all prayed so hard watching you guys walk through this, and I did think, like, I have seen a resilience in you and an ability to adjust to some really hard things with these boys. And so I'm always like, would sing your praises. But another girlfriend of mine's like, don't do that because she just was like, anyone could do this. We've made a choice to do this. So tell me why, like, how you feel.
We feel the same way. Because I look at people who are on the literal mission field. They're in the jungle, or you know what I mean? And I'm like, I would never be able to do that, And I think it's just, God calls us all to different things. He calls us all to hard things and good things.
Does it feel patronizing or something? Or like...
It's kind of embarrassing. I think that's really what it is. It's like, because I know what we're like at home, and we are not perfect at home.
Oh, yeah. Well,
nobody is. And so I look at it and I think, I don't see what we've done is any more amazing. Yeah, it's taken some sacrifices, but I also look at what we've gotten out of it personally, in our own personal growth, in our marriage. I think it strengthened our marriage. I mean, there was a rough patch there where, not that there was anything happening between Kelly and I, like that was not the issue, but it was just hard. It felt like every night we had to sit down, and instead of just sitting down and having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and enjoying the evening together, we were like discussing like the playbook. Like, okay, now what do we do now? Because this is what happened.
Yeah.
And
you
was
were
just
in like strategy.
Yes, exactly.
For a while.
And so it was mentally exhausting. And so I don't know that it's patronizing. I think it's just it feels embarrassing because we feel like we're not anything special. We're sorry.
I know. I don't want you to go out in the thing so people can see your face.
I know I move a lot when I talk.
It's okay.
And I feel like
I'm a
like
total Italian. I know
yeah.
we are very close, right?
Yeah.
But
so I think that's mostly it for us. Is we just we want people to know that. First of all, I do think it needs to be a really strong desire of your heart, because it is definitely not for the faint of heart. Also, I don't know if we had known how hard it was going into it that we would have said yes. Do you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't change it at all. But I think if we had been able to see the full picture down the line. Now we haven't seen the full picture, and we've started to now see some amazing things.
But you're not in triage as much anymore, so you have the wisdom of, okay, from where we started to here, we're in a much better place.
Yes.
These kids feel like ours now.
Yes.
They're in the rhythm of our family.
Yeah.
And no one had a rhythm there for a while. It was just you guys were all trying to figure it out and figure out how they had been parented differently. They had different. They had I think when you set your child's clock from the get-go, then they're just absorbed right into the rhythm of your life. But when they come with their own clock and you're just constantly bucking against what they know. And
Yeah. So it was hard, and I think anybody could do it, but you have to have the desire to do it, and you have to know that it's going to be challenging. And I think too, you have to be in it together. I've said to parents who have talked about it, like, well, my husband's not quite there, and I'm like, then don't do it. Don't do it, because we had to be on the same page all the time. And like I said, we have the support of our parents, we have the support of church. And I know there's a whole foster community too, and I feel like we're just now getting to the point where we could even be involved in something like that, where it would be really good. I've been running with a gal who is, I taught her daughter preschool this year, and she was a foster kiddo adopted, and just being able to talk to somebody who gets it, who because these kids, they have sensory things, and a lot of kids do, but there's some things that are fairly specific to
foster kids,
and our Colton, there's just certain things he will not eat or touch, and we've just had to let it go because he just won't. And
everybody's allowed to not like something.
That's true. But it's like really yummy stuff. Like, we're like, why? But he just looks at it, or he'll see the texture of it, and he just won't even do it. So, but it's definitely, we love the support that we get, and I think it's nice to be recognized. It's nice to have people say, wow, whatever. But then I think at the heart of it, we're just real people who felt a call and did it, and
And I think that's the most important thing, and we're going to wrap this up, but I think the most important thing is to know that fostering is not just a desire to grow your family. It is like it's a call that it has to be put on your life. Right?
Yeah. And there's so many benefits to it, and there's so many neat things that we've learned, and like I said, it's grown us so much personally. And honestly, Abby is a different kid because of what she's watched, and she's had to make sacrifices. I think that's the hard thing is it doesn't come without sacrifice, and financially we'd probably be in a very different place right now if we hadn't decided, just because it's expensive to raise four kids. So, but we wouldn't change it for sure. Yeah.
All right. So one question as we wrap up that I'm asking every guest: as you're in this season of life, the kids are a little bit bigger, where you're not surviving babies anymore. What is your best next step for your life right now?
In relation to
whatever. It could be like binge watching, I don't know, the new Anna Green Gables. I don't think it's out yet. We're all waiting.
Like you said, we just moved. We have had a crazy bonkers summer, and I think our best next step, my best next step as a family, is coming back to where we were 2 months ago.
Okay.
Less chaos, less boxes,
and
a rhythm. Yeah. And I think that'll happen when school starts again. It's just been bonkers. But the kids, like Kelly was supposed to have a meeting tonight and it got canceled. And we were all high-fiving this morning, and the kids were like, family night! Because we just have not had any time, the six of us, in a very long time because of just the chaos. And I think it's coming back to that, getting back in a rhythm, enjoying these kids. And the house that we bought actually has an extra bedroom, so we have talked about potentially fostering again, not anytime soon. And that would be a best next step, is to not do anything crazy right now, and just to adjust to the new home, adjust to life. and work on continuing those relationships and building those. So
Yes.
Yep.
I think give yourself a pause for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing big happening.
No.
Hopefully, we
Yeah.
won't get any phone calls about children.
Is it Melissa Pemberton?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's going to hear that, Amy.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
We don't have an extra room. No. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today, Amy. Thank you for sharing
You're
your story.
welcome.
I
Thanks
think
for
it's
having
such
me.
a good, it's so important for people to know. I think it's important for people to hear the details of walking through these kind of processes
Yeah.
and how they work and how your family shifts and grows. And yeah, so, okay. Do you want to let people know where they can find you? Do you want to?
Instagram, Amy Klossner.
Okay. Super.
Yeah. So
You can go follow. She
you
posts
can
pictures
follow,
of
yeah.
her beautiful family. And
Yeah,
they're
you can see them on there.
fun to see.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Have a great afternoon. And this is always my encouragement, wherever you're at in your life, what is that one best next step you can take to get yourself further towards the goal that you have for